My drill sergeant said I'd never make it past week 1, but then he found out about my civilian job. I showed up to Fort Moore for basic training, looking like I belonged in a library, not an infantry unit. I'm 5 feet 6 inches, wore glasses, and had the softest hand staff Sergeant Blake had probably ever seen on a recruit. First day of training, he pulled me aside. "What did you do before this, Private?" "I was an elementary school teacher, drill sergeant." He just shook his head. "Great. Another college. Boy who thinks the army is going to be summer camp. You won't last a week, and honestly, the first few days were brutal. I couldn't do a single pull-up. My push-ups looked pathetic. During ruck marches, I was always falling behind, gasping for air while everyone else seemed fine. Staff Sergeant Blake made me his personal project. "Brooks, drop and give me 20. Maybe teaching finger painting didn't prepare you for real work." But then something weird started happening around day 4. We had this recruit named Danny who was having a complete meltdown during weapons training. Kid was from some rough neighborhood, acted tough, but he was terrified of handling the rifle. Everyone else was getting frustrated with him. He was slowing down the whole platoon. Danny started crying, saying he wanted to quit. Staff Sergeant Blake was about to lose it when I stepped in. "Hey, Danny, look at me," I said calmly. "We're going to break this down into tiny pieces, okay? Just like learning to read, one step at a time." I spent 20 minutes walking him through each part of the rifle. Spoke to him the same way I talked to a scared 7-year-old who couldn't understand math homework. "Good job. Now show me again." "Perfect. See, you got this." Danny went from crying to confidently handling his weapon in half an hour. Staff Sergeant Blake watched the whole thing without saying a word. Later that night, he called me to his office. I thought I was in trouble for overstepping. "Brooks, how many kids were in your classes?" "Usually around 28 per class, drill sergeant." "And how many classes did you teach?" 5 classes a day, drill sergeant." He leaned back in his chair. "So you managed 140 kids daily. Got them to sit still, pay attention, follow instructions, and learn new skills." "Yes, drill sergeant." "And some of these kids probably came from broken homes, had behavior problems, didn't want to be there." "Many of them, drill sergeant." He was quiet for a minute. Then he smiled for the first time since I'd met him. "Brooks, I've been doing this job for 15 years. You just did in 20 minutes what takes me weeks to accomplish with difficult recruits." From that day forward, Staff Sergeant Blake started using me as his secret weapon. Whenever someone was struggling or about to quit, he'd quietly ask me to help them. The kid who couldn't memorize the general orders, I turned it into a song like I did with multiplication tables. The recruit who panicked during gas chamber training, I used the same breathing techniques I taught anxious students during state tests. The guy who couldn't make his bunk properly, I broke it down into the same step-by-step process I used for teaching kids to tie shoes. By week 8, our platoon had 0 dropouts. Every other platoon lost at least 3 people. At graduation, Staff Sergeant Blake pulled me aside one last time. "Brooks, I owe you an apology. I thought teaching kids was easy work. Turns out managing a classroom full of children is the best training for managing a platoon full of recruits. They're really not that different, drill sergeant." "No kidding. Where are you getting stationed?" "Fort Campbell, drill sergeant. Going to be working with new soldiers during their first assignment." He grinned. "Those lucky bastards have no idea what's coming."